Welcome everyone. In this video, I wanted to cover how to sit properly in a way that is not damaging to your knees, your hips, your back. So many people find it uncomfortable to sit for periods of time on the floor, especially for something like meditation. So I wanted to cover all the basics about how to find a comfortable seat. Now, finding a comfortable seat is crucial because if you can't be comfortable seated, you're not going to want to sit for very long, and it's distracting for your meditative practices. Okay, so there's lots and lots of options. You do not have to sit in a perfect cross-legged seat. You do not have to sit in full lotus pose in order to be good at your meditation practice, at your seated practice. So let's review all the possibilities, all right? First major option to make things ultra simple is to just sit in a chair if you need to. There's absolutely nothing wrong with sitting in a chair for meditation or for doing other practices. So if that's the easiest, simplest solution, please just do that. Chairs are great. You can get a wonderful meditation practice sitting in a chair. The basic idea is that you just want your spine to be long and straight. So as long as you can do that in a chair, then go for it. You'll want to sit at the edge of a chair. Usually at the edge of the chair is the best because you're not tempted to lean back. You just bring your sitting bones near the edge of the chair. You get your ankles just a bit back from underneath the knees, so we're not out here. We're back a little bit, if that's okay on your knees, and the hands are just relaxed in the lap. Okay, this is a perfect solution for so many people. So if this is the way for you to do it, then do it just like this. And if you need to, you can have cushions behind you to support your spine. Okay, ultra simple, nothing wrong with that. Now, if you are wanting to be on the floor, there's lots of different ways to work with this. So what we are aiming for in all of our practices, and all of our seated postures, I should say, is that the spine is in its long, natural shape. So there's a slight inward curve at the lumbar spine, slight outward curve at the thoracic spine, and a slight inward curve at the neck. What happens when many of us sit down is that we end up tucking under, and we end up rounding the whole spine, okay? And then when we notice that happening, we jack ourselves up and we squinch the back muscles, and we end up kind of throwing the chest open, and we sit too straight, and we end up being very uncomfortable here because we're actually contracting, contracting the back muscles, okay? So we want something that's natural in between, and for most of us, that's going to mean sitting up on something, okay? So a good rule of thumb is that your hips are higher than your knees if you're going to sit for any length of time, okay? So even though I can sit like this right now, if I were to sit here for any length of time, my knees are just a little tiny bit higher than my hip joints, and that's going to be tiring over time. So you're going to get a blanket underneath the hips, and you'll notice that that levels things out. In fact, my knees now are a little bit below the hips, okay? So for some people, that's all you need, is just a little bit of a shim of a folded blanket or a meditation cushion, something underneath the seat so that the hips are higher than the knees. This relaxes the low back, it helps you engage through the front of the body, and gives you a nice long spine without any extra effort. The prop takes the place of muscular effort so that you can sit comfortably, all right? Next possibility from cross-legged is that even with lift, and this lift could even be higher, okay? So it can be taller if you need to. It can be a cushion, It can even be a couple cushions. So that seat, that differential between your hips and your knees can actually be quite a lot more if need be. If that's better for your back, you just have it as high as you need to. Okay, maybe I'll show you just so you believe me. Okay, so it could be, some people need to sit on a couple cushions. If you're a big, tall person, 2 cushions you might sit up on. That's too much for me, because I'm not that tall, but 1 cushion feels really great. Okay, my hips are that much higher than my knees. It takes pressure off of my low back and hips, and it's quite comfortable. All right. Now, the other issue that people come across, maybe I'll just keep this one, is if you lift the hips, then all of a sudden pressure comes down into the knees. So if your knees bug you in a cross-legged position, what you can start to look at is supporting the knees. All right, you can support them with blocks, with throw pillows, with folded towels, blankets, anything that lifts the knees up. Now, this does change the relationship again now between my knees and my back, okay? But with all this nice support, the body tends to relax, okay? There's this nice little nest that we've created between the hips and the knees. So what you would not want to do, just as an example, so sometimes, like, let's say you're just sitting flat on the floor and your knees are up, which is fine, they do not have to come down. But let's say your knees hurt and you think, oh, I want to support my knees, and you put some cushioning here. Now I've really thrown myself out of whack. I've pushed my knees way up and I'm hunching back, okay? So if the knees, again, we're gonna look at that main rule that we would like the hips to be level with or higher than the knees, okay? So if you support the knees, then you also have to have something underneath your hips. And just as a reminder, there's a couple ways to sit cross-legged. You can cross your ankles, or you can have 1 foot in front of the other, okay? Or some people will do a half lotus, where they'll bring 1 leg up, okay? That's only if that's natural, okay? We're not just jacking our body in there because we think that's how it's supposed to be, right? So I very rarely do that because my knees aren't happy with that in the long term. So you want to make sure that the seated position that you're choosing is nourishing to your joints. Not that you're trying to punish yourself into submission and hope that one day your body acclimates to the punishing force. That is the opposite mentality that we should be cultivating. We want to cultivate generous, healthy, loving arrangement for our body so that it can finally relax. And it's when the body relaxes that it gives us more room, okay? And even if we never get more room, then at least we're relaxed, okay? Now, other possibilities are sitting on in some fashion on your shins, okay? Not everybody can sit directly on their shins and feet like this. If you can, it's a lovely, easy way to sit for meditation or sit for breathing practices. It naturally aligns your spine with almost no effort. Almost everybody sits with a really good, healthy spinal alignment in this when they're sitting on their shins, okay? Now, if the knees are not happy with that or the ankles are not happy with that, we just need to take some pressure off of the feet and knees. First of all, you could pad the ground underneath you. But second of all, you can bring some type of support of a block on a low or medium, or even 2 blocks between your feet, so it's like a bench, okay? There's even meditation benches that do this for you, that go over the feet and you can sit on a little bench. This is a really nice way to sit. This has taken all the pressure off of my feet and ankles, and there's just a little bit of weight on my knees, but not very much, okay? So that's a really great way to sit for meditation. It's comfortable for a lot of people for a long period of time. You can also use, if you have a bolster, some people like to use a bolster as a bench. So in the same way that you just used the blocks, you could try a bolster as a bench. Or if you want to have some fun, put your bolster on its edge and sit on it right in the middle, like a little hobby horse. And that is a really great way, I'll show you from the side. That can be a really nice way to sit. It's kind of comfy and it's also fun, something to give you to switch it up a little bit, okay? So I hope that one of these options helps you find a comfortable way to sit, and please always feel free to reach out if you have any questions or specific needs that haven't been addressed here. Enjoy your practice.